It's time for some more of your favorite Mets stories with your favorite Mets. I'm your host, Mike Shanella, and this guy showed up middle of the season, end of July, back in 2015, and then just jumped on that Mets rocket ship all the way to the World Series. Kelly Johnon, what's up, man?
Nothing. Just thanks for having me, and hope you guys are staying safe up there.
We are. How about you guys? I see you're in the car. How are things with you and the family?
Yeah, we're good. We're doing well. Just kind of doing our best to stay to ourselves, do some homeschool, and just hang out with the fam and have some quality time. It's been great.
And you've got, back when you were here, you had 3 kids then, but now you've got a 4th one, right? You finally got that baby girl to complete the bingo.
Yeah, we added, got the girl, so mama's happy, and brothers are in full protection mode, just learning how to be bodyguards. So we're hanging in. We're doing really well, and we're still got kids baseball, so we're not completely isolated from everybody, but we're doing what we can and just having fun.
All right, good deal. Glad to hear it. What have you been up to in retirement? We'll get to 2015 in just a second because I got a lot of questions I want to ask you about that year. But is it just full-time dad now, or what do you got going on these last couple of years?
Yeah, right. Right when I retired, we had the 4th and had a baby. And I talked to a lot of guys that had played before me and I played with, and they all were just like, "Hey, be a dad. Stay at home. Till you got time to figure it out, but you can be around during these years is about as priceless as it gets." And that's kind of the way I felt. And full-time dad, coach, husband, mom, she's happy. My wife, Lauren's happy to have me around full-time. So we're just making the most of this time with the kids when they're at this age. And it's been great.
Hey, dad and husband, the 2 best jobs you can have, right? And eight teams in 11 seasons. I'm sure she's happy to have you home now. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later because I'm sure that must have been an interesting few years for your marriage. But first things first, I want to get to 2015 because, we have you here reminiscing about what a year that was. And, you were here for half of 2015. You come back in 2016, and you spent a lot of your career with a lot of different teams. But right here in New York, the only team you went to the World Series with, it is who you ended your career with. So when you look back now, it's been a few years, so you got some perspective. How do you remember that time here? What comes to mind first?
World Series is the first thing. And I get the question all the time, where was my favorite place to play? And, what do I consider myself? I was drafted the Braves and played most of my career there. So, probably say I'm a Brave, but at the same time, my favorite team year experience, like most memorable moment, all come in Mets uniforms. You cannot put a price on being able to go to the World Series. The postseason itself is a blast. I was lucky enough to do that the last 4 years of my career. I got to do it my rookie year. But getting to that World Series, even coming up short in the World Series, but going to a World Series, you cannot – only 2 teams go a year, and I played with a lot of guys that sent me messages or calls, and they were like, enjoy it because most of us didn't even get to do that. And, when you think about it like that and put it in perspective, it was special.
And no one really saw it coming because, when you showed up, it's, a week before the trade deadline, so it's late July. Mets are a game over 500, if I remember correctly, when you show up. So no one's thinking World Series in that moment. And then it's 41-24 to end the year, just that roller coaster that never came down. What were those last 2 months like? That had to be so much fun.
It was. I can't even describe it. It was a blast. It was the most fun I've ever had playing baseball. It's funny because I come in and the team's got a history and it had been a tough several years there. There was some when I was a rookie in my first couple of years. Those teams were tough. Beltran and David and Jose and Pedro and Castillo. On and on. Delgado. There's just so many players, and that was a tough team to play all the time. Obviously, coming real close to going to a World Series that one year in 2006, I believe, right? It was always a tough place to play, and then they switched, stadiums. And I'll be honest, Shea was a tough place as a visiting player, and City was more comfortable. It wasn't as tough. So you kind of knew the history there and coming in, and I don't know. Even before Cespedes came, you look at the pitching and you looked at kind of what was there, the defense and everything else, and you felt like this team's pretty good. as soon as the Cespedes trade happened, it was like, for me, I had just played with him in Boston, and I saw him firsthand, and he's a freak. And I was like, wow, like if this works out in our favor, if we get the guy that the potential, this is going to be crazy good for us. And sure enough, he came ready to rock, had a great, season as a whole, but he really had a great couple 2-3 months there for us. And the pitching came too. And going out there and seeing guys start and get to the 7th and the 8th inning, every time that happened, you knew it was a win. And, coming up as a Brave, that was what they hung their hat on. Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz, 2-1, 2-0, 7, 8, 9 inning games. I mean, I felt like that's what we were doing. That's what we were all about. Offensively, it was kind of live and die by the home run, but when you're only allowing 1 run or 0 runs, it works. So, it got more and more fun as the season went on, and we just got better and better.
Was there anybody when you got there right away? You mentioned like you knew Yo from Boston, but he didn't show up until a week after you did.
Yeah.
Who, when you showed up, and you came with Juan Uribe too from Atlanta, so I'm sure you had a bit of a friend when you got here. But was there anybody that kind of embraced you? You're the new guy mid-season. You show up. Who was it that was like, "Hey, come to the lunch table with us"?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, by that point, I had 10 years in, and you've played enough and around enough guys to kind of meet everybody from the other team. David hadn't come back playing games yet, but he was there all the time. So David and I, knew each other from playing against each other. So first time I got to be around Michael Kadire a good bit. And I mean, he makes it about as easy as anybody to kind of come in and be a part of things. So, those two. And then I had, happened to be in a building in Long Island City that had Travis d'Arnaud and Lucas Duda and a couple other guys, and they would give me some rides. And so it was very easy to fit in, very easy group. Everybody was about the same thing. Everybody was there to get either better or win. Major league teams don't typically have, one mindset. There's always, different mindsets per, how old you are. And, some guys want to make money. Some guys are trying to make an all-star team. Some guys are trying to win World Series. And all in all, you get everybody on the same page at the end of the season like that. And that's when you have some fun. So it was an easy team to have fun with.
How much does that help? You mentioned you lived in the same building as a couple of guys. And I'm sure as you get older, you have kids, guys are going to move out to different homes or whatever. But that's got to be pretty cool to accelerate the bonding experience. You guys hang out? Do you like movie nights? Or is it like, how does that work?
We, that first year I was there, that 15, we were in a building there, and it wasn't as quiet. There were some guys in there, and I got, like I said, I had rides. I had some guys to go eat with. And that's always fun. The next year actually is when we moved in with my whole family into a building just on the other side of the river. And that was like half the team. And so, you're talking, watching fireworks, from the top floor out over the river, over the bridges and everything else. And guys getting together and going to hockey games. I mean, it was a blast. I mean, everybody's in the same boat in that city. Everybody's tight. Everybody's in the same, trying to get around and find stuff to do, find stuff to eat. It's not always the same in every place. A lot of times you're more spread out, depending on where you are. And it's more of, guys in their own, pockets. But in New York, you're kind of in the same pocket there. So that makes it more of a tighter group, I would say, just on its own for sure. You're right.
And you would know because, like I mentioned, 8 teams across the 11 seasons and lots of different markets. You played, in New York, in Atlanta, Arizona, Toronto, Tampa.
Yeah.
So, I mean, New York, that's got to offer it's got to be literally different than any other place you play.
No, and like I said, I mean, you go to New York and you win, and they're lighting the Empire State Building in orange and blue. It doesn't get any better than that. I mean, it really doesn't. And that's just the greatest city to be if you're a winning organization. And so those 2 years, I mean, getting to the playoffs and that year especially, going to World Series and being the hottest team there in the city, I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Give me some particular memories you have from that run, because we all have some as fans, right? I remember when you guys were in Washington, right, that sweep, and David comes across home and he's pumping the fist, and I remember jumping off my couch watching that. What now, a few years later, some games about from you or teammates, like what pops to mind first?
God, so I have 1,000 memories. I mean, probably just right out of the gate, the funny part about being traded to New York that first time in 2015 was I kind of knew I was going to get traded that year. And I would say going to a division rival and a team that I don't know where we as the Braves, I mean, 1 or 2 games in the mix there. You know, it's not like we were
I think
far
the Mets were
behind
only like 2.5 or 3 games up on the Braves the day you got traded.
Yeah, it was a bizarre feeling. So to go to that team and then, you know, to be going back to that city, I had spent time with the Yankees. So just from a family perspective, it's like, oh my gosh, like you got to figure a lot of things out with the family. So there was a little bit of a whirlwind there, but the next day, you know, Uribe and I are getting on a plane in St. Louis, and you know, our flights got altered somehow. You know, I don't know what airline we were on, but it was weird because I felt like we all of a sudden were on different flights, and we were on different airlines and different times and all this stuff. And Uribe knows about enough English to survive, not a lot to really dig deep with people. So if I wasn't there, I don't know if Juan would have ended up in the Dominican Republic or where he would have ended up. So that alone was a trip, because, you know, we get to the hotel and I'm like texting him like, hey man, did you make it? And he's like, yeah, Poppy, I made it. So I just thank goodness, you know, for that we were together. But you know, first game in, it was a rout, you know, for us. I mean, we won 15-4 or something. And, you know, so that was a fun way to kick it off. And then, I hit a
homered that game, right? Did you go like 3-4 or something?
I had a good game, and you know, not too long after that, Uribe had a big walk-off, and so, you know, when you're a new guy, you kind of want to make that impact and make that stamp of, you know, I'm here and I'm here to help, and you know, I can help here, and so we both kind of did that. You know, I just remember getting Cespedes that day, and some other guys, you know, Tyler and you know, Addison Reed came over, and I mean, we just got good players and good dudes across the board added, and guys were coming off injury, and, you know, the team just rounded out and stayed healthy. But yeah, you know, the series against the Nationals, just being in a position where I remember, you know, TC saying, hey, we're 4 games up, and, you know, a couple things can happen here. We kind of split the series and we stay 3-4 games up, you know, we sweep them, and we get swept and we're still up a game, so we're still winning, or we sweep these guys and we put this thing away now. And I think we kind of rallied around that, and that kind of got us fired up. And man, those were some fun games to play in New York and in Washington. And you know, I'll never forget going to Cincinnati and clinching and going up there and having fun. And then obviously once you get to the playoffs, you know, big moments in the Dodgers series, and it was a tough series, and guys really stepped up. Noah stepped up. Jacob stepped up. You had Ruben get hurt, so there's a lot of things going on there. And, you know, winning that Game 5 in LA, that was about as fun of a bus ride. You always hear that, right? Like, you know, happy flight, you know, if you go and win. And it was the most fun bus to the airport, plane ride back to New York. Landing in New York was a blast. I mean, the whole experience was great. And then we swept the Cubs, and I mean, then you're in the World Series. So all those things stand out so much.
Put me fly on the wall on those bus rides or that plane ride. Are you guys reliving the game that just happened? Are you looking ahead? Are you just celebrating?
The Dodgers series? Yeah, I was a relive of the whole turn of events. I mean, a lot of emotions coming out there with just some of the way that the games turned, and the way that, you know, like I said, Utley and Tejada and that injury, and the umpires kind of missing that, and just, I mean, we win that game, you know, if that doesn't happen, or if that's handled correctly, and it was just one thing after another, it felt like. So to kind of release some problem there, and just get on the bus and, you know, have a cocktail or something, and just get after it and yell and scream and laugh about it was awesome. So that was just, you know, without revealing too many things and putting anybody in any compromising positions, it was about what you would expect, and it was awesome. It was fun.
Yeah, we don't want to get anybody in trouble here. Just good family friendly stories.
Yeah, we tossed a few beers back, and we had a good time.
Hey, you guys earned them. You deserved them. How much was that? You've spoken about this before. How much was that the Chase Utley and the Ruben situation kind of like a galvanizer for you guys for the rest of the season?
Well, it worked out that way. I mean, I guess it could have worked out for them too, because, from their perspective, one of their leaders is playing hard. That's kind of where, I was asked then what I thought. I got real angry. Obviously I hate seeing a guy go in like that and it's just dirty intentions. But I was really more mad that you got the extra two umpires and all that's going on there, and no one sees that as for what it was. That he did not hit dirt; he went straight into his leg, and I still can't get over that. Like, why? What are you guys looking at? And no one ever comes out and explains it. No one ever says, "Hey, we missed it," and so that's just tough. But as far as Chase goes, I mean, he's now New York's most hated. I mean, he just gets booed, and he's going to get booed if he shows his face. And the guy plays so hard, and I'm not going to ever sit here and make it about him. He played the way he plays, and it's no different than Pete Rose, running over a catcher in an All-Star game. I mean, that's the way he is built, and that is what made him probably a future Hall of Famer. So can't say anything about that as much as just it's head scratching for me. And just what it cost Ruben. He was playing great. I mean, he actually got to the point there, I felt, at the end of the year and at that moment where it was kind of like, if Ruben comes up and we need a hit or we need a walk or anything, a sac fly, a bunt, I felt like Ruben was as automatic as anybody to have a big at bat. And he was playing good defense. And honestly, I was the next in line backup shortstop, sort of, had anything happened. And as soon as it did, they had to make a call there on whether, you move Flo away from kind of what he was doing or have, Reynolds come in and play. I mean, there was just some real tough choices to be made there on which direction you go. So it was a heartbreaker for me because Ruben's he's one of those guys that you cheer for.
Let's keep the spotlight on some of the guys that we cheered for there. Obviously, Ruben, like you said, by that point you guys could put him in the bank in terms of what to rely on. But we've talked about, Daniel Murphy in that postseason too, and everything he did. We'll never forget that. When guys like that are clicking and you're there, you're kind of moving around the field or up and down the lineup, and you're getting plugged and played. Do you ask him after a game? Like, do you ask for advice? Do you ask to borrow a bat? Do you just leave him alone and let him cook? How does that work relationship-wise?
Oh, man. You just rub up against Murph just whenever he walks by. You're just give a little shoulder lean, just a little touch, But, it carried over. I mean, shoot, he had some great games. Everyone knows all the home runs and what that did for us. But, man, that kind of stuff, look at some other guys that had some big moments. I mean, Conforto had some big moments. Duda had big moments. Granderson had a lot of big hits. Obviously Cespedes and David were going to do their thing. So it rubbed on everyone, and it carried over and made a big impact on all of us. And you just kind of, it gets to a point when you have an offense rolling like that you're just at the bat rack or you're in TC's ear, like, hey, let me get in there, let me get an AB. And I mean, like I said, after going through the emotions of that Dodgers series, I don't think there's any other way we could have done it to the Cubs than sweep them and play like we did right there. I mean, it was just like, that was just a whooping, and we took it to them, and that's what it was. So, we lived and died on the homer, but when you get hot and the guys are rubbing off on each other like that, look out.
And just you going down those names in the batting order, I'm going through my head, and all the memories are coming back, and it brings a smile to my face. So I can't even imagine what it was like being there on a day-to-day basis. So
fun. Yeah, it's never going to forget. And, I don't know that any of us particularly you're disappointed and man, you want to win and you want to get back and you want to get a World Series ring, but you can't look back on that in any negative way, just the way it went down and the way that, we played. And I mean, the Royals were hot and it just felt like it was their year. And that happens, like I said, I got to go to the postseason 4 years in a row there and played a lot of baseball. So you get to the point where you just sort of realize it is one team season and nothing's going to stop them. And I think when you kind of see it that way, instead of kind of like, we let one slip through, man, it was just their year and everything went right. And I'll just never get over the fact. The only thing I'll never get over is you get to that World Series and these guys that are scouting report, Edinson Volquez 92 to 95 or Cueto 91 to 94. Every one of them was throwing 98 to 100, like all of a sudden. And I'll never get over that. I'm just like, what in the world? Like, what happened? You know, you knew the relievers threw 100, but all these starters were coming out and just throwing, you know, gas. And it was, I don't know if we were ready for that. And they came out ready to pitch.
And who knows, right? Postseason, everything gets amped up a little bit. Scouting reports can kind of go out the window. But, I mean, it's great perspective the way you kind of have that view on it, that, you know, yeah. Remember the good stuff and the stuff that was accomplished. And it didn't work out at the end the way that any of us or that you wanted it to. But still, like what you say, what are you going to do? Just enjoy what you had.
It was a special season. I mean, you're National League champs. And, you know, I got a good-looking ring sitting in my safe that, you know, I'll cherish that forever. And, you know, it's some people call it a second place ring, you know, whatever. But it was, like I said, I didn't feel like a loser. You know, I felt great. I felt really proud. And I think most of the guys did too.
Yeah, pennant's a pennant and flags fly forever and rings stay in the safe. So you got that all taken care of that year.
Yeah.
We mentioned, and you've alluded to it a couple times, all the different places you played. So I want to talk more a little bit about your career at large now, because obviously great times with the Mets, but you did make a postseason run those last 4 years, as you mentioned. Before that, bopping around different places, 8 teams, 11 seasons, 3 kids while you're in the big leagues. How many thank you presents did you buy your wife, or how grateful were you to her for being all happen?
Yeah. No, she did a lot there, especially because most of that all happened in my last few years. You know, my 1 year of going from Yankees, Red Sox, Orioles, that was a tough one because we had a pretty sweet, you know, spot in up in northern in Rye, New York, up in, you know, White Plains area. And, you know, we had to move out of there and get into a hotel in Boston. And by the time we were thinking of, you know, moving into maybe an apartment or something, we're traded to Baltimore. We're living in a hotel there. So with 3 kids and one of them a baby, it was a tough ask, but she was a trooper. She handled it. We have a ton of good memories from that year, and you know, that's just part of the game. But you know, it wears on you for sure. And I mean, I'd be lying if that didn't, you know, play a role in just being ready to retire when I was ready to retire. I mean, I probably had a couple of years where physically you could still do it, but mentally I just got to the point where it was enough was enough a little bit. And so you know, being traded that many times in that consecutive years was fun, but it does take its toll. So it was, I wouldn't take any of it back. It was great. You know, the first year, my rookie year, was crazy because it was basically a rookie with like all my friends. I mean, I think we had 18 guys make their major league debuts, and there was like 21 rookies that season on that team, and we ended up going to the playoffs and winning the division and all that. So that was a good way to start it. And then, you know, as you go through, you kind of learn how to be a big leaguer and learn how to be a pro and make new friends and get to live in cool places and see some cool places. And, you know, time in Arizona, I got to go and travel the West Coast a little bit more. And, you know, that was fun. And, you know, shoot, you just take everything as a positive and, you know, you learn and you grow from it. And I feel like, you know, as I did that as best I could.
And you ended up making history, too. You're the first guy ever to start a game for all 5 AL East teams. So congrats on that, I guess, right?
Yeah. No, it was, you know, Steve Pearce came in right after me and did it, you know, like shortly thereafter. But, you know, and that my situation was in a 2-year calendar. So from, you know, the end of the season 2012, I was in Toronto, and I had, you know, been traded to Toronto the year before. But if you're going in the calendar of September, or late August, I was a Blue Jay, and then a Ray, Yankee, Red Sox, Oriole, all in 2 years of a 2-year calendar. So that's what I'm talking about when it's like, you know, that's a whirlwind of moving around and being on different teams and different places. And, you know, shoot, it's crazy. That's a weird. I'll probably be known better for my transaction history than some things with my play, but you know, that's okay.
And hey, Steve Pearce might have done it, but you were always first. It's always Neil Armstrong first guy to do it, right? So
you're dang right, man. You're dang right.
Besides being with the Mets, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but you talked earlier. You consider yourself a Brave. Atlanta's where you still make your home. Was that always your favorite place to play, besides when you were up here?
Well, I wouldn't say. I consider myself a Brave in that's where all my time was spent. That's that's who drafted me, raised me. You know, I was fortunate that the way the Braves were winning when I got drafted, they didn't change anything. They were the same organization from 1991 till, you know, what was the last year? 2005, basically 2006. The guys that I played for in the minor leagues became big league coaches, and one of them is the manager, you know, Brian Snicker. He was my AA manager for a couple of years. So we were really raised by these guys. You know, I went to some rehab assignments in the minor leagues. You know, as a big leaguer, you get hurt and you have to go play some games in the minor leagues, and you go and see other organizations, and it's quite obvious that, you know, a lot of these guys, you know, come back to coaching the game after they're done playing, and they do it for a year or two, and they just don't like it, so they leave. There's a ton of turnover. The Braves didn't have that, man. We had Randy Engel, Brian Snicker, Rocket Wheeler, Bobby Moore, you know, name after name of these coaches that were Braves lifers. So it was just like a family. And so in that's why I kind of refer to myself as a Brave. I would say I had a lot more fun in some other places. Just from the standpoint of in Arizona, I kind of made my money or had some career stats and some years there where I did some good things. And, you know, again, with the Mets, it was so special to be a part of such a fun, you know, we won and, you know, World Series and all that. So I would say Arizona, I had a really good time. And then the Braves and Mets were probably all my favorites. Had a great time with the Rays, a lot of friends. Andrew Friedman, man, he obviously with the Dodgers, he just won the World Series, but, you know, everything that guy does, and he's as far as leading and I mean, he's just, to me, he's the top. Like he's who you would want to go and, you know, learn from and play for and all that. So I got to spend a year with him and those guys, and that was awesome to see how they do it. So I got to play for some great managers. I mean, Bobby Cox, obviously, you know, John Farrell won a World Series in Boston, played for him in Toronto and Boston. Kurt Gibson was the manager of the year in Arizona the year I was there. And then obviously Buck Showalter, who I probably consider, as far as the game goes, the smartest guy I played for. Joe Girardi, also super smart. Joe Madden, I mean, incredibly, you know, player-friendly manager. And then TC is just, man, like I had a blast with TC. I could talk to that guy about baseball and where he's been and his past. I could talk to him for hours. I mean, I felt like he was the guy I talked to probably the most in a batting practice as the manager makes his rounds and just kind of says hi, you know, check in. I probably could sit there and talk to him by far the longest of any of the guys I played for. But AJ Hinch was another guy I played for in Arizona. So got to play for a lot of different types of managers, old school, new school, you know, brainiacs, baseball, you know, ninjas. I mean, Showalter's a ninja if you ask me. So, I mean, a lot there, just blessed to be around guys like that.
You still stay in touch with Terry at all in the last couple of years?
Yeah, we talked not that long ago last year. I gave him a call, and he sends me a text and says, "Oh, you guys just respond to text messages, so I didn't want to call you." I was like, "TC, just give me a call, man.
Yeah.
I'll answer." So yeah, I try. You know, there's some guys you want to stay in touch with for sure. I really enjoyed you know, TC about as much as any of them for sure.
All right, let's keep it in New York because you spent some time with the Yankees, half season there, I think, as well, right?
Yep.
So comparing the two, you're not the first guy to do it. Mets and Yankees played for them both. It's a long list, but you've done it for relatively recently. What were the biggest differences between the two organizations when you were hopping across town?
God, well, Yankees, and this is no slight to the Mets, no slight to anyone else, but when if you were to, you know, sit down like a panel of, you know, 10-year-old kids and say, what is it like to be in the major leagues? Like, you know, what do they get to do? You know, you'd probably hear some crazy ideas like, you know, flying cars, or, you know, it would be just wonderment of like what I would have thought when I was a kid, what the big leagues was like. I'd be like, man, like champagne and caviar, right? Yankees really is that. I mean, they do things on another level, and it's all from a good position. But for an example, you know, most of the teams have a standard to put your team up in a hotel, and most teams meet the minimum standard, which are great hotels. Nothing against them. Yankees always go to like the best hotel. When you get to the city you're going to, they would have like a breakfast brunch set up for everyone, family, coaches, team, and it would be open for like 3 hours in the middle of the afternoon, where they just want guys to hang out together. They really just want everyone to sit down at the table. It just promotes team building a little bit, but it seems like a no-brainer. But they were the only team doing that. Anytime March Madness, they'd rent out a ballroom in the hotel, have 3 TVs, all the games, food, drink, whatever. Just another level, man. Just always a little bit of another level. And that really doesn't have much to do with the baseball, but in terms of just how they, handle everybody, treat everybody, their kids' room and family room, and just a little bit of everything they do just at that extra little touch. So that would be the only difference, but that's not really a Yankees-Mets difference. That's kind of a Yankees and everyone else difference. In terms of the fan base and the passion, both have a huge passion and a huge fan base. I would say, I would say the Mets, I really appreciate how much they cheer for the whole team. Whereas with the Yankees, it felt a little bit more like a separation of, the superstar and everyone else. That's fine. That is what it is, man. The Yankees have been filled with the Reggie Jacksons of the world and the Derek Jeters of the world. So little differences there. I mean, an older franchise. So, I would say there's some differences. It still comes down to New York City, Yankees, Mets, and whoever's winning, they are proud, and it is awesome to be a part of it when you're winning.
And I think some champagne and caviar is coming to Queens soon. I got a feeling. And we love all you guys. That's why we're talking to you, because once a Met, always a Met, especially when you were here for a year like the year that you were. I remember you had a little chin scruff when you were here in Queens, right? You had to. Were you anti the facial hair policy in the Bronx, or do you like express?
Oh man, I can't grow anything. First of all, so if there was anything growing, it was I don't know. Maybe my razor was lost for a month, and it took that long to grow in. But yeah, that didn't bother me. But definitely that some buddies where they needed the scruff, and to go and shave that was a hurt to their heart for sure.
Oh man, it's the little things in a long baseball season. It's those little things that help guys get through, right?
Yeah.
Kelly, thanks so much. I know you're in the car hanging out with us, giving you a little break from the 4 kids, but I feel like you got to go back and tag yourself back in soon, huh?
Well, maybe I'll skip away for another 10 minutes.
Best to you and the family, and thanks for joining us. For Kelly Johnson, I'm Mike Janela. Thanks for hanging out.